One of the most important things and the cornerstone of anybody's financial success is their financial plan. And it's very important to have a financial plan. I think no matter what stage you're at in life, I think having a financial plan is very important. And today I just want to talk to you about what a financial plan should look like, what it should include. And I think a lot of people think they have a financial plan, but all they have is kind of a snapshot of where they're going, which that's not actually a financial plan. Writing financial plans, it ends up being the most time-consuming part of my job. To be completely honest, it's not my favorite part of the job. I actually really like coming up with the strategies and thinking about it and running the numbers, but actually writing it out kind of gets a little bit tedious sometimes, and so for that reason I have decided, now that Tanya's working for me and she's going to find this out once she starts editing this video, that I want to start providing video financial plans for clients that come to me off of YouTube, because I mean, I get the majority of my clients from YouTube. A lot of them I don't even get to meet, and I'm teaching them in the videos, of course, and so why not give like a personal financial plan just in video form instead of written form, with just a summary on the side. So if you want one of those, I mean, you can always email me at kenttilley@k4financial.ca, and I'd be happy to do that for you. So I'm going to talk about what a financial plan should actually look like. A lot of people have seen, you know, from somebody, they have a software generated financial plan, and that is a big part of the plan. It runs a lot of the numbers for us. It tells us where you're going, but truth be told, it honestly only takes like 5 to 10 minutes to actually do that once you've figured out the numbers. So it's really not quite as impressive as it might seem. There's a lot of fancy charts and graphs and numbers, but having a real financial plan on top to go and explain what has changed and what's happening in that software is very, very important. So the first thing that I have to do when I'm doing a financial plan is I need to make sure that I have all of the information. So I won't even think about it unless somebody's going to give me all of the information that I ask for, because otherwise my financial plan might be off. It might not look good. I might make bad assumptions, and then all of a sudden I'm giving bad advice. So I ask people, if I'm going to work with them or they want to try and attempt to work with me, you have to give me all of your information. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to make certain assumptions based on things, because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. So I mean, assumptions that I might be making and will be making is, what is your anticipated rate of return? And I'm not going off just some generic random number that says, oh, you're going to get a rate of return of 7% because I want to sell you on the fact that I'm going to get good returns. It's because that's what Financial Planning Canada sets out in their assumptions. So they say, if somebody is in a growth mode, then their rate of return that they can expect over long term is going to be X minus their fees. I'm also going to make an assumption as to what the inflation rate is going to be. That's probably going to assume between 2 and 2.5%. I have to assume somebody's longevity. And so I'll always ask this question. So if somebody thinks they're not going to live very long, or they are going to live longer than average people, then I'll change that. But for a general person, I'm going to use age 90, just because I don't want to I mean, you need a lot more money to live till 90 on your retirement income than say 80. And I don't want you to get to your mid 80s and be like, I'm completely out of money. Kent told me I could retire. I'm going to make an estimate about how much your government benefits of CPP and OAS are going to be based on your work history, how long you've lived in Canada, an assumption on your real estate rate of return, and some other personal assumptions I might have to make. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the software and I'm going to punch in exactly where you're sitting based on what you're doing today. Say you didn't change anything. Now my goal is to say I want to put you in a better position if you decide to work with me, or even if you don't after you've seen the plan or you follow some of these steps, you should be in a better financial position in the long term. Hopefully we're above your retirement goal. And then what I have to do, and this is the big long written part, is talk about all 6 areas of the financial planning process. And for some people, and for everybody, and in every case, they're always going to be different. Which one is the most important at that person's stage in life? So I'm going to put them in order of importance so that, you know, I'm talking about what's most important right now, and this is going to be completely dependent on your personal situation. But the 6 areas that I'm going to talk about are first asset management, retirement planning, risk management, estate planning, cash flow management, and tax planning. So that's how it's going to be. Now I'm just going to get into which each area can I actually start talking about. Now before I get started, you need to know that a lot of these areas sort of like coincide with one another. So you know, it's not always just lumped into one or the other. A lot of them can sort of have similarities, or you can say, well, we're working on this with this. But for area number 1, I am going to talk about what everybody cares about the most, which is their money, of course. So I'm going to talk about asset management. And how do I go about talking about this? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is review every single asset that you have. Every single one. That's your bank RSPs, your TFSAs, your house, your business assets, every single account you have. And the majority of my business comes from the fact that I'm just going to look at your accounts that you have at different institutions, and I'm going to say, this is how much money you are paying for this, and this is how much money you can save if you move it over here. Because I'm mostly worried about fees. That's what we can control. I'm not that worried. I am never actually worried about past returns. I am never ever going to show somebody this is what I got in the past and it beat yours, so that's why you should move it to me. I think if somebody operates that way, it's a mistake. So I'm just going to talk about how much money you're going to save. That's going to give you a better chance of success. I'm going to look at your diversification, your risk, see what's going on. If you're self-directed with your accounts, that's totally fine. You're paying low fees. I'm not going to say, guess what, you have to move your money to me. No, you don't. I mean, you've got that covered, but I will talk to you about it. I'm also going to talk to you about your work accounts. Maybe there's some changes you can make there. Maybe your rental properties. I'm going to incorporate all of that into there, as well as your business assets. And I'm just going to talk about, you know, how you should structure those so that, and kind of explain. But I'm not the one that's ever going to pick and choose what you should invest in. I'm just going to say this is maybe who you should invest your money with, and then I'll break it down. And if I suggest that you should move certain accounts to me for X reason or Y reason, then I will also lay out exactly how much money K4 would be compensated if you do that, as well as exactly how much money you're going to pay in total if you do that. Now I'm going to talk about what almost everybody hates the most, which is taxes. And tax planning is very, very important. And for a salaried employee, it's hard to do really great tax planning because you don't have very many options to save money in tax other than by utilizing your RSPs and your tax-free savings accounts. But once you're getting near and entering retirement, then you can really be tax efficient in how you're taking your money out and all of these other things. So I'm going to talk about that, and if you have non-registered investments, I'm going to talk about how to make those more tax efficient by setting up the accounts in different ways and potentially writing off my advisor fees. And another really big area is for business owners, and that is where I would come in and I would kind of hope to work with your accountant and say, you know, this is where you should put your money. This is how you should invest it in your holding company or inside your corporation. This is what you should do with it. And we'll set up a good structure for how you should actually be paying yourself to actually maximize your tax savings, plus increase your long-term net worth and increase the sale of your business and reduce the amount of taxes you'll have to pay when that does happen. So I'm obviously not an accountant, but it is my job to really help you understand those areas, especially if you're a business owner. Now next is cash flow management, and this is a huge one because tons of Canadians struggle with monthly cash flow, and no matter how much their income is, they just don't seem to have anything left at the end of the day, or they're going into debt. So a big part of my job, or a financial planner's job, is to help you figure out, areas where you can save money, how you can budget, maybe increase your monthly cash flow by bringing in more money or reducing your expenses. One of the really fun planning processes is getting together with my retired clients every year and deciding how are we structuring your income so that we can reduce taxes and increase your cash flow every year. Some big ways to do it in certain cases is by consolidating debt, especially bad debt, and enabling you to actually get out of debt and then start getting ahead. So it's really big. It's the hardest work out of all of them for sure. It's not that fun to try and, sort of step on people's toes and say, like, make sure you do this if you're in a bad position, but it is a very important part of the job and a big part of a lot of plans. Now, next one is obviously very important as well, as they all are, retirement planning. Most people really want to retire, and the biggest thing is, can you retire when you want with the amount of money that you want to be able to spend? And sort of everything that I talked about before this goes into me saying, how am I going to improve you being able to reach those actual goals? And then I'm going to say, yes, you can, or no, you can't retire at this age with this amount of money. Or maybe you have to spend less, or maybe you have way more money than you need, which actually happens quite often because people save too much. They're too worried about it. I'm going to talk about when you should optimally take CPP and OAS. I'm going to discuss with you, if you have a pension, which option you should take and when and why. I will talk to you about preparing for the sale of a business. As I said again, I'm not a lawyer or an accountant, but that's part of the planning process. With business owners, I try and decrease the value of their business because a lot of the times it can't be sold for what you think that you can sell it for, or it's harder to sell, or you don't want to sell. So it's good to have sort of a personal financial plan in place and a business financial plan in place. And lastly, then we'll sort of talk about, which is most people's, one of their biggest assets is their home, and do you want to stay there forever, or do you want to downsize? Do you want to sell and rent? And we're going to talk about all those things, and hopefully make you feel comfortable when you're not working that your money is going to last forever. That's the favorite part of my job, is saying, yes, you can do it. You've worked this hard for this long. Go enjoy the rest of your years not slaving away for the man. Now these last two are the ones that people don't like talking about the most. So now I'm going to talk about estate planning, and as I said a few times, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't deal with all of this stuff. But what I am going to do is say, this is what the value of your estate is likely going to be, and this is what the tax owing on your estate is likely going to be if it's at that level. Is that the way that you want it to look? How can we reduce the taxes on your estate by pre-planning in advance? How can we reduce your probate if you live in a province that charges excessive amounts of probate? How can we plan around that? One of the very huge conversations I have with a lot of clients is making sure that you have a will, a power of attorney, and a personal directive up to date, because if you don't, it can become a nightmare for your beneficiaries and your estate. So we want to work over that. I can talk about strategies that could potentially enhance the size of your estate if that's something that you're interested in, if you really want to give your kids or your grandkids some extra money, and potential charitable giving options, things like that. So it's just a big part of the plan that most people don't really want to talk about too much. Now we made it to the last but not least, risk management, and that includes, what are your insurance needs? Are your insurance needs covered, and do you have the proper insurance in place? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk about what do you actually need, and then I'm going to look at all of the coverage that you might have. You might have some personal coverage, you might have some coverage through your employer, and I'm just going to make some recommendations and maybe some potential tweaks. I might say, you have great insurance in place, or maybe I don't think you have enough insurance here. Maybe you have too much insurance, or you're paying too much insurance, and I'm just going to list out actually what I think insurance you need, and I'm not going to make any real recommendations here as to which product you should buy or not buy at this point in time. I'm just going to say this is what I actually recommend you need. Should you want to talk to me further about your insurance needs and potentially exploring some of these ideas, then I can put together some actual recommendations for you based on different products, because with the insurance world there are thousands of different products. Basically, some of them are extremely expensive and only meant for a select few people, even though tons of people have them. So what I'm going to do is say, this is how much you could get this insurance for. This is how much I would be compensated if I sold that insurance to you, so you know that I'm not trying to sell you one product over the other because it's going to benefit me in the short term and not be so beneficial to you. I'm just worried about covering those specific needs you might have. And some plans are very complex, some plans are extremely simple. Doesn't necessarily have anything to do with how much money a specific person has, but I do believe that everybody does need a written financial plan. It is what I work on, what I work off of when I'm talking to clients in the future. Are we working towards these? Do we need to make these changes? It's a very important thing that I think everybody should have. If you'd like one of your own, like I said, you can email me or or Tanya, or info@k4financial.ca. I would love to do one for you. I'd like to do a video one for you if you'd like that. Honestly, I can't imagine you have anything to lose, because there's absolutely no commitment on your behalf to actually have to do anything with me. I just hope that I can prove to you that I've given you good enough advice that you want to hopefully work with me moving forward. So thank you very much. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and we'd love to hear from you.